Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. This is the regular quarterly meeting of the Board of Directors of the Nevada Board of Agriculture. Held in Spark, and we have the roll call now. Okay. All right, please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we will have a moment of silent reflection for all your intentions. Okay, Juliana, do you want to?
Yes, for virtual meeting reminders, if you are joining us online via Microsoft Teams, please know that all participants have been muted upon entry. Please keep your microphone on mute and use the raise hand feature until you are called upon to speak. Again, to raise or lower your hand, click on the raise hand icon and you will be called upon in order. Once called upon, locate the microphone icon in the meeting controls and toggle your microphone to unmute yourself. If you are joining us by phone, please press *5 to raise your hand if you have a question or comment, and *6 to unmute yourself when called upon. As we head into roll call, if you are joining us online and your name is not reflected in the participant list, please state your first and last name and organization when you are called upon, as well as the first and last name of anyone who may be viewing with you.
Okay, we'll go ahead with roll call starting in the Elko office. Who do we have in Elko?
Yeah, Pete Ferris is here from the Elko office.
And Scotty Vega, Program Officer, Elko office.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Moving to Las Vegas.
Brooke Neubauer.
Aaron Tuttle, Public Information Officer, Las Vegas.
Dave Kuhn, Dairy Industry, Clark County.
Ray Saliga, Deputy Administrator, Division of Plant Health and Compliance.
I think it's a sport. Is it sport?
No.
Sorry, Mimi Diebold, the Just One Project.
Okay, thank you. And Sparks office, we start with you, David.
David Ruff. Oh. Plant. It's on there, okay. Gotta remember what I am here. Nursery stock, sorry.
Very good, thank you.
Heather Lackey, Douglas County, representing pest control.
Tom Baker, semi-range cattle production.
Hey, Coles, General Ag. Craig Shank representing the veterinarians in the state. Marlon Higbee, private public trade.
Lindsay Campbell, Petroleum.
Debbie Gilmore, Specialty Crops.
Richard Ed from the Attorney General's office. I'm Jim Snyder from Lyon County representing row crops.
JJ Goycochea, says I'm the director here.
Doug Ferris, Deputy Director.
Leanna Hendricks, Executive Assistant. Kathy Balfin, Administrative Services.
Jess Stenovich, Cattle Industries Administrator.
Pete Rolfe, State Veterinarian.
Mitchell Hoppy, Administrator of Division of Food Nutrition.
Bill Strajewski, Administrator, Measurement Standards.
Megan Brown, Administrator, Plant Health and Compliance.
Berkeley Industry and Global Trade Coordinator.
CRS Public Information Officer.
Ian Knightful, please. Pablo Delaney, FLC, Foreign Labor Certification Leader. Okay, very good. And we have one guest.
That wouldn't be me then, I guess.
Okay, thank you. First, virtual. Oh, virtual attendees. Who do we have virtually?
I'm gonna go ahead and call on your name. If you have anyone else in attendance, please let me know. We have Carrie. Bonnie, could you please state your first and last name and if you have anyone else in attendance with you?
I'm Bonnie Little and I'm by myself.
Bill Chan,
Bill Chan, Senator Cortez Masto's office, by myself.
Nicole Hayes,
Sorry, Nicole Hayes with American Wild Horse Conservation.
and Robert Cooper.
Yeah, hi, I'm here by myself with Batha Ventures. Thank you.
Thank you. And we also have IDA staff Jeff Ganuza and Jessica Whitfield online.
Okay. I'd cover all of our roll call. Now we can move to public comment. Do we have public comment? Okay.
Doc, I will.
Yes.
This may seem trivial, but after last meeting, when we had the new agricultural plates introduced, it got me wondering since then, does the Nevada Department of Agriculture have a flag? And since we now run, the department now runs the fairgrounds, shouldn't we have a flag for the grant entries and at the fairgrounds since the department runs it? Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Other public comment? Okay, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes when you're ready. That will be the minutes of the March 19th. Cool, I'll move to approve. Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Board member updates. We start with you, Pete.
Did you call for me? We are having a real hard time hearing you guys, I can tell you that. You hear me okay?
Yes, we're looking for board member updates if you have one.
Yeah, we've been docking lambs lately. The sheep come off the desert, not looking as good as they do. So it's been terrible dry down south. It's been a good spring up north, so most of the sheep people that I talk to are going kind of through the same things. Percentages are down some this year. We're market's unstable and wool market is non-existent, so the only thing that's really doing well is the predators, I understand, so that's about all the news from the sheep end of the world.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Las Vegas. David, do you have an update?
David.
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you. We all know how important communication is, information being passed along in any industry. And we want to acknowledge and express appreciation for the program that is just being started by the Department of Agriculture. They've informed the industry that just this week, the industry was informed that we're developing a program that is structured to teach nutrition and good health to students in the school districts. And as we all know, that's where things start. And it's certain to be beneficial for the children to be given facts of what is important in the consumption of milk. And so we know that the industry, the state, and the consumers will benefit from these kinds of efforts and successes. So again, an acknowledgement to those behind the effort and an expression of gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Brooke, do you have anything for us?
Yes, good morning, everybody. I just wanted to share that we have seen, so the Just One Project, we serve TFAP and CSFP, and we have seen a very big decrease in people coming out for services. And so as I always want to paint the picture of what it looks like for clients that are receiving and participating in these programs, just to give you guys an example, our inbound calls for January were 21,000, and February 16,000, March 13,000, April 12,000, and May was 11,000. And I'm rounding down these numbers, but given the current administration, it just seems that a lot of clients are just afraid to seek services. It doesn't necessarily mean that inside of their home is delicate, but even if somebody has an undocumented grandmother living with them, they won't seek services anymore. So just to show that decline, and then we've seen a decline in people that depend on or that join us for our once a month Pop Up and Give program, which is TFAP food that we serve there. We were averaging between 6,500 and 8,500 at the end of 2024. And we have now gone down to about 4,600 people every month. And out of the 4,600 people that we surveyed in May that receive TFAP food, 86% of households depend on this food, and 66.5 would have to skip meals if this program wasn't available. Out of those 4,631 people that we surveyed, 43% of those households are receiving public assistance, and 90% of those clients are dependent on the TFAP food program, and 69% of those folks would have to skip a meal if the TFAP program wasn't available. So we've been following the updates from the USDA and the NDA in regards to the CSFP program and the TFAP program, and we have been fortunate enough to be invited by Congressman Horsford pretty often to attend listening session and town halls where we've been able to share our concerns with these programs. And we are currently always connecting with our elected officials, Senator Rosen's office, Senator Cortez Masto's office, Congresswoman Lee, Congresswoman Titus, just to really help paint the picture of how Southern Nevadans are in fact dependent on these programs and how we need to protect these programs, and just keep making sure that we pivot and keep communication transparent so that we can make sure that these programs exist and are there to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Thank you for your work in this area.
Thank you.
David.
Well, I will tell you, I got a number of calls here about the new fee that was put on anybody selling seed in Nevada here. And a lot of times the main question that arose here is this, what I'm supposed to be talking this? Okay, so so they were wondering how the $75 fee got stuck on there and why it just didn't get tossed on to the nursery license fee, because most everybody that sells feed also sells plant material, items like that. And it was odd that there wasn't more publication put on. And I, said that it went through prior to my being on the board, but I would ask some questions about it and what was supposed to come out of this fee, because I don't know if we have people that are going to be going around to Long's and Walmart and places, as well as independent nurseries, looking for seed certificates. And then I had a gentleman that was unaware if he collected native seeds down by Vegas and sold them, if he had to come up with the $450, I think, fee for him to go and sell native seeds to locals down there that want to be out increasing natural habitat. So I guess it wasn't very clear on that as far as what he needed to purchase or be inclined to. Yeah. The other thing is that the number one thing that also came up was that a lot of people still don't have nursery licenses that are landscapers who are buying plant material in from California or Oregon direct, and they're supposed to have a certificate, and yet, nobody's out there policing that side. And so those were the two main issues that I've heard lately.
You might improve those.
Yeah, absolutely. So the seed retail and wholesale fee, so there's two different fees for wholesale of seed versus retail of seed. We are doing inspections at both Walmart sort of box store locations as well as privately held nurseries. We have a staff person that is working on doing the seed testing from those lots. We can work with Sierra on maybe some additional communication. We had originally combined seed retailer and nursery licensing fee on the same form. The first time around, it received the opposite feedback, that it was confusing. And so this year we implemented two different ones. So maybe we can chat, get feedback from you guys if there's certain retailers that would like it combined, some not, and what that would mean for our logistics of sending those out. Because they are technically housed in two different programs, but we can definitely chat that out. I will have to find out about the native seed sale. If they're selling seed, they definitely need to, but we don't obviously want to inhibit that. So if I can get the contact information, I can make sure to set him up with Russ, and we can find you the information. And the landscapers as nursery licenses, I know Ray and I have talked about this, and it's on our priority to figure out. It's been a gap in service, and so it is something that is on our radar screen that we will address for sure. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Heather.
Morning, my name is Heather Lackey. I'm representing pest control for Douglas County. So the most common thing that I've been hearing about recently, of course, is rodents. And I wanted to thank Megan directly for the link to the Warming Crickets, because that's been most helpful with the public, teaching people how to get involved. And they definitely feel a lot more empowered because they can look at the site, put information on it, get information off of it. That's been wonderful. Thank you. The other thing that's been a big issue, of course, is the hot topic is zoonotic diseases and hantavirus, particularly because we've had some recent fatalities due to it. A few people that are still suffering through that disease. It's just really unfortunate that, when you've been in the industry long enough and you see certain things come and go every time in the seasons, there seems to be a certain season for hantavirus, and it's unfortunate. as we were saying earlier, that communication really is key. And it's unfortunate that people have to die when we have the results already out there. So I've been running with the flag on that one, trying to keep people safe. And usually it comes across as you're trying to frighten people into service, but really now when it's in the media, it's helpful for us because it actually backs up what we're trying to educate people. So that's about all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
So Tom Baker from White Pine County. I guess we'll start with the positive. The cattle market's great. The pastures and crops that we have water for look good so far. Our issue is lack of water. I think we're the 6th lowest snowpack on the mountain above us since they started keeping records in 1940. So a lot of the crops and pastures don't have water and they don't look very good. We're hoping, we've gotten some rains last month or so, and we're hoping to get some good monsoon moisture for the deserts, but otherwise they look pretty tough and worried about next year's feed.
Okay, thank you. Hank?
Yeah, Hank, I'm General Ag, not too far from Baker there, so we're suffering the drought as well down there. The General Ag's all the efforts by Department of Ag for lifting the ban for the poultry and the dairy exhibitions and fairs. And Doug Busselman, we just all hope for his recovery from the surgery. And get back to business. We're watching the legislature, of course, as it wraps up.
Okay, thank you. Big Shank, Representative Veterinary Medicine, and also resident of Churchill County. Just maybe a little update on the American Veterinary Medical Association's Council on Education, giving a letter of reasonable assurance to Utah State University to begin the inaugural class of 2029, which means they're accepting students now to start in fall of 2025. What that means to us in the state, with the state of Nevada allocated $8 million over the course of the next 10 years to have 7 spots per year for Nevada students. The class size, Utah State is 40 students. 7 students coming from Nevada is big. The only thing we can't guarantee are all those 7 students are going to end up working with cows or horses or in agriculture. Unfortunately, most of them will deal with those pets we go to bed with at night. So, but we're excited that we have an in for our students to attend this program. Maybe a little update on what's going on in Churchill County, since I don't think we have enough representatives. The rye is either in bags or silage pits, corn is in the ground. First crop is right in the middle of the so the water for us is pretty good this year. We had a reasonable snowpack. Reservoirs are full. I wish we could send a little bit your way, but we're a little stingy, so probably not like this. Looks like good year hay prices. As you know, on our end, selling it is as good as you guys like on the other end. That's too much. Can't buy your hay. Thank you. Bartlett. Bartlett Egley from resident Lincoln County. Represent public-private grazing. Been pretty good. The last few weeks really dry through the winter. The last 3 weeks we've had some pretty good storm in the southern main in spots. And real spotty storms. In fact, coming up here yesterday, listening to the radio, was flash floods in southern Nye County. And we're trying to decide whether it's going to close 90. So there's some storm there. It's just real spotty where it gets. You get your spring feed, your flowers, and some of the pretty grasses come. So right at this point, our spring's been pretty good. But on into some of those that graze year round out on the lands are going to probably be struggling. They're going to be buying some of your hay. Whatever's right. We're selling out. But other than that, markets are good. Like I said, the cattle market is extremely good. Actually, so if you're just going to have to sell out, now's a good time to do it. Okay, thank you. Yes.
Mackenzie, representing Petroleum in Washoe County. I'm happy to report that ECAN Energy and Convenience Association of Nevada held our first legislative day ever in April. We were small but mighty, so it was great for us to have a presence this year. Session was overall good, nothing major to report. Nationally, we're watching EV rollbacks in states like California and also changes in renewable. Nothing impacting Nevada right now, but something that we're watching just because the industry is changing. Locally, we have a tax increase July 1 for both Washoe and Clark County. That will be 2 to 3 cents on fuel. This is the voter brought and voter approved index. So you can see that's beginning July 1. Lastly, we are seeing a lot of our convenience stores have more and more tap to pay, which is great because that's the biggest fraud prevention on your cards. So if you are at pump, pay with tap.
Thank you.
I'm Debbie Gilmore, Lyon County, representing specialty crops. Last meeting, I reported the heavy bee losses. USDA has sent many people out and they have many researchers looking into that. And just day before yesterday, they come out with a preliminary report and they have identified really high levels of 3 different viruses in all of the samples that they tested. These viruses are carried by a parasitic mite, and so they were looking at the mites. Almost 100% of those mites had genetic markers resistant to amatraz, which is primarily used by commercial beekeepers to control the parasitic mites. So that miticide is not working, and they are attributing that to the heavy losses. They're still looking into environmental concerns, chemical concerns, and nutritional concerns, but that seems to be pretty much what's happening. So EPA also come out the day before yesterday that they are rushing through, or they're trying to rush through approval of 3 different miticides. And it usually takes, I know you're all pretty familiar with EPA, but it takes years and years to get some of these chemicals approved. But they're trying to get this through so that beekeepers have other options to control their mites. So maybe out of a good situation out of a bad situation comes good things. But as far as our local beekeepers go, we have in our Mesa Valley beekeepers, we have over 130 families throughout Nevada. And the reports are so much better this year than they were last year. People are already showing honey that we did not see last year. The bees are healthier this year. So I'm not really sure what's going on, but we're really happy to report that things are looking much better for local beekeepers.
Okay, thank you. In Lyon County, I would report we were also in the middle of first cutting the pay. Pay production looks pretty good. A lot of pretty clean fields. We've got some of it put up without rain so far. Water situation is okay right now, but it's going to taper off and be pretty thin by the end of the season. So we're limited there. Row crop production, there are a lot of fallow fields still around as you drive through, and I'm not sure what the reason for that is, but it appears that vegetable acreage is down, or probably market reasons or reasons of uncertainty in markets. Beyond that, I think that's it. So we have a director's report.
All right, so John's legislative update first. I'm going to go to the director's report, then I'll go back to that legislative. That might take a little bit of time. You guys all have a copy of the director's report. I'm not going to read it to you. If there's questions, I'd rather ask those. I'll hit on a few key points. And obviously, we still remain actively involved on myself and predominantly Dr. Rolf on H5N1 nationwide. He did a great job of getting around that in Churchill County and getting that snuffed out. So big thanks to Dr. Rolf on that. We are moving on with, as you said, Dr. Shanks, we removed that ban, or not Dr. Shanks, I guess, on poultry and dairy this week. So we can start showing those again. Obviously, we'll keep our eye on that as what happens in the fall. Along those same lines, I just want to let everybody know that the temporary lifting of the restrictions on cage-free eggs will end on the 20th of this month. So 16 days from now, that will be our 120 days. I'm not going to extend that at this time. I'm going to hold that next 120 in my pocket. I fully anticipate, and I think Pete does as well, we'll see a spike in high path poultry infections as we get into the fall and see a migration again. And so I want to hold that to the end of the calendar year so we can have that protein for the holiday season. So again, that will expire on the 20th. Sierra has helped me put together something, and we will be pushing that out to alert the public. Those that have purchased eggs on the 20th can continue to use that stock, sell that stock. It's just after the 20th, all that sourcing will have to come from cage-free sources. One other thing of note, Beef Quality Assurance Advisory Committee, I still do sit on that on the national level, representing cow-calf producers and Nevada. And I'm happy to say that Rochelle Clark, our Ag Literacy Coordinator, has agreed to take on the state coordinator role for BQA in the state of Nevada. We have not had one of those in a long time in the state. And any of you guys that are following the cattle market know anymore, you don't get really a premium for BQA. You get docked if you're not BQA. And Cargill, Walmart, these companies, they're not going to be buying cattle that aren't coming from BQA sources. So she is in the process of that now. She will be coordinating that and helping with that instruction, as well as that renewal process that you must do every 3 years. Western Governors Association Sage Grouse Task Force, continue to meet on that. We are hoping to have a path forward to get a record of decision signed by the BLM by later this summer and fall. We do not want to start over on a sage grouse plan. A lot of you know we were really close at the end of the last administration. Nevada was not willing to sign what they gave us, so we went to the incoming administration and Secretary Burgum and asked him to please work with us to iron out a few details. Megan has been actively involved at the staff level. And then you've got 3 directors, myself, Settlemeyer, and Janae, actively involved with meeting with the BLM regularly, trying to get what we need for Nevada into that resource management plan amendment, and so that we can get a record of decision on the sage grouse signed. Along those lines, those same 3 directors, we meet monthly with the BLM now, and we've actually been meeting even more regular. Part of that is because the administration has announced an energy emergency, if you will. So they're trying to fast track some energy permitting. What that means for us in Nevada is a lot of geothermal. We've seen a little bit of a rollback on the solar and wind side, but the geothermal thing is going big. And we've got 7 of those projects hanging out there right now, 5 of which we have paperwork for. So what we're doing is we're reviewing those, making sure we're not going to see impacts to water, grazing, or other agriculture for the most part. In addition, Megan's providing comments on those as they build those linear right-of-ways and those power lines. What's the leaves look like? What's that dust suppression? Are they mitigating everything that we need to along those lines? But it is moving fast. They want these fast-tracked, the BLM does. So we're trying to make sure that we can do the right thing for the industry and get that power online, but at the same time protect our industry. And we're not seeing some huge reductions in livestock grazing or agriculture. I also attended the change of command ceremony, Fallon Naval Air Station. I only bring that up to dovetail into the next piece, where Churchill County had reached out to the Department of Agriculture asking for an economic analysis of what it was going to cost these producers that were going to lose their permits as part of that FRTC modernization. And so we did provide, I went through and compiled 25 years of data, the last 25 years of what that looked like for a cow-calf producer in Nevada. We provided that to the Navy so that they could use that when considering what compensation they're going to be doing for these ranchers that will have no range to run on. They did meet last month. However, the Navy, until pressed, said they did not receive our data. But once pressed, they said, oh yeah, we did, but we didn't look at it. So they went with a substantially lower number. So that meeting did not come out with a very good outcome. They went back and they're looking at our data. The numbers that they came and proposed for that producer that is impacted now, I'm not going to give the exact numbers, but I will tell you it was ridiculous and nobody in this room would have accepted that to be out of business for life. So we are continuing to engage in that and make sure our producers are held as whole as they can in attempts to find another place to continue to raise livestock in the state of Nevada. Pete, he might touch on this, but Idaho State Department of Agriculture and Nevada, we work together to come to an agreement due to the RB51 brucellosis shortage. Of course, that's pretty much over. We've got the vaccine now, but we needed to move livestock in April, and those cattle had to come both ways across that border, and a lot of those were not able to be brucellosis vaccinated. So we worked out an agreement, and if Dr. Rolf would just talk to that, I will not steal his thunder on that, but him and Scott worked on a good agreement there. Moving forward, we did have a really productive meeting with Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins a few weeks ago. Part of that meeting, we talked a lot about the need to expedite the EA process to accelerate treatment of grasshoppers and Mormon crickets. Megan will give you an update on that. That has been somewhat successful. We've got some pressure on in the right places, and so we should start treating very soon, but I'll let her update you on that, what that looks like over the next 2 weeks. We also had a little trouble with our final cooperative agreement from USDA on FSIS, Food Safety Inspection Service, for our meat and poultry inspection program. So we've asked her for a little bit of help, kind of fast track that, get that moving, get that cooperative agreement signed. We have 3 inspectors right now that are eager to get out into these plants, and some of them need, all 3 of them, I guess, actually still need a few weeks in plants and in processing facilities to be signed off on. USDA has been a little bit reluctant to give us a fast track on that. So we think we're going to go ahead and utilize our partners in California to get that done a little bit quicker so we can see that meat inspection start almost immediately. We're hoping in the next 60 days that those guys could be done. And we start stamping with Nevada product. In addition to that, Mr. Parris, we leaned heavily on her to help us get those 2 state Wildlife Service trappers reinstated. We ran into a little snag there. Chad was working really hard with Director Ono. However, we were having a little trouble getting those guys hired and onboarded, but Secretary Rollins seemed to know what buttons to push. And that happened almost immediately that we could onboard those 2 guys, Elko and Ely. Obviously, we know we still have a vacancy there in Elko due to a circumstance beyond our control, but we are advertising that. And we will have that very full very soon. But she did help us greatly on that. Disease response came up as well. High Path really drew a lot of attention to maybe some gaps that we experienced with veterinary services as a result of deferred retirement and buyouts and the like. And again, I can't say enough about Dr. Rolf. If we hadn't been fortunate enough to finally convince him after 3 years to come here and help me, we would have been in a lot different shape because we did not have a lot of help from the feds. But together, Pete and Repeat, being me, managed to get it done. And so we told her we would like to kind of reconsider how that's done. Maybe we need some more cooperative agreement money rather than refilling some of these federal positions in the state that oftentimes aren't here when we need them. We'd be more than happy to take some more of that money and put an assistant state veterinarian and epidemiologist on in-house. So we are having those conversations as we work through the budget process, redirecting those cooperative agreement funds. And then, Brooke, we did hit extensively on the food programs and food assistance programs. I will tell you, and Juliana and Doug were both in that meeting as well, that we are the only state that expended all of our funds and expended them in the right way. So big kudos to Patricia and her team on that. But Secretary Rollins was actually, I guess, amazed that we had put all that money, 100% of it on the ground. We don't use any of that for overhead. We don't take any of that money for local food purchase or school purchases. We don't use any of that for overhead. That all goes right back to the producers on the ground and for food to our communities and our schools. She wants to use us as a model for that. She did ask for some write-up on that. We did provide that to her. So she's trying to figure out how to find other sources of revenue or other programs that we continue to do the same thing on. It may not be LFPA. You know, is it gonna be SNAP or what's it gonna be where all of that produce and all of that commodity have to be purchased from local producers? Something along those lines. But she was very receptive and very thankful for the work Nevada had done in demonstrating an effective model of putting that money on the ground and not being wasteful with it. So we're pretty proud of that. And again, big thanks to Patricia for that. Other than that, we worked on a ton of comments. Megan and Juliana and I probably, I don't know, dozens since our last meeting. And so we're putting a lot of comments forward in regards to NEPA. We will continue to do that. We're starting to pick and choose a few just because there are so many out there. But know that we're not going to let anything slip through the cracks. If there's a project in your area that you don't know if it's on our radar, by all means, reach out. Because sometimes we might not be catching them all. We're watching the clearinghouse, we're watching the notices, but you know, for a very nimble staff, we're doing the best that we can. And other than that, we did a lot of stuff at the legislature. And so I think we will segue over into that. We had a really, really good session, in all honesty. Considering the environment that we were in with not a lot of money, and we knew the money was going to be tight. I think this agency probably had one of the best sessions we've had, Doug, since we've been here, maybe. For sure. Extremely successful. You know, I want to add when we started this. Okay. So, any questions on my board report first? Anything we're doing, not doing? Any questions on that you guys have before we jump into this legislative update? Keep up the good work. And Doug did most of it. Doug and Juliana. And I'll tell you, these two to my left, I'm nothing without these guys. I'll be honest. I can't pull any of it off. So we're pretty lucky. We got a pretty good team put together here. I'm pretty proud of everybody you see in this room and on the screen. All right, so we're going to get started for our update. A few big things off the top. Budget account 4552 and 4545. Administrator Brown will be the first to tell you that this is a decade at least overdue. And we have talked about this since both of our time here at the NDA in 16. And we finally got it. Maybe it's just because we're hard-headed and we don't take no for an answer and we continue to push it. But this is going to guarantee the solvency of what will be now one budget, but these two budget accounts going forward. We have always had a hard time with those fees and making them balance and cross-coding between fees and grants. And it was really difficult for Kathy's team and admin and Megan's team on what jobs they go to. The fund maps were really hard to navigate. As part of this, we are obviously going to look at our fee structure and what that looks like, because we have equipment. That one is 15 years old now, that mass spectrometer. It's failing. And we just continue to put bubble gum and duct tape on it. And we went the last two sessions, asked for replacement. This time they did tell us, once you guarantee that this works and the budgets are solvent and you've got your fees and everything in line in one budget account, come back to us at interim finance, show us it's working, and we can purchase that equipment finally. And so that is a big win for us. And it's really going to help us moving forward. So any questions on the merger of those two accounts for either Megan or I? Take place? July 1. We'll get started. Right? Yeah, Ernie, absolutely. It's in process. We knew we were going to get that one. We were betting on it. We're in Nevada. We bet on black and red and started. Somebody Bill 29, if Bill has anything to add here, he can. This is provisions related to motor fuel PDR 51271. This was signed yesterday by the governor. Finally, it was sponsored by the Assembly of Natural Resources on behalf of us at the department. And I think, Bill, you gave an update, I believe, on this at the last meeting as well. Modernized, clarifies signage, labeling requirements, that kind of thing. Just brings us in line with the national standards. So you guys pull in, you can expect to see more uniform signage of sizes, colors, what you're actually buying, what it's going to cost you, that type of thing. Anything you want to add on 29, Bill?
Just that our next steps now will be to push out notification of that to the industry, also to work with ECAN and other colleagues. You know, for I think most businesses, this will be, if there's any change at all, it'll be relatively minor. In some cases, it might be a little bit larger, and what sort of time frame will work for both us and the industry. But yes, it brings us up to the 21st century.
Maybe the 20th. We're not quite caught.
That's right. But so we're really happy about the way this proceeded. And thankful for industry support as well.
Very cool.
I will move on to Senate Bill 466. This is probably our flagship bill. It came out at the end. And we do have one other one, I'll let Doug present it, but we're pretty proud of. But 466 came out at the very end of the session. This might have been one of the last BDRs introduced. And to say that we had to spend 24/7 getting this thing across the finish line would be an understatement, but we got it done. What this does is transfers authority to regulate and permit food establishments, certain food establishments, from the Department of Health and Human Services to the Nevada Department of Agriculture. So we already have food safety here. And that was probably one of our biggest lifts of the legislature, was making them understand. We have dairy and food safety now. We have meat and poultry inspection. We have produce that Megan's doing. We're already doing this stuff. And they came to us and, well, why do you want to be food safety? Well, we already are food safety. So why don't we just incorporate more of that? So what this will do, certain food establishments, i.e. restaurants, grocery stores in our rural and frontier counties are inspected by Health and Human Services now. That comes to us. But in addition to coming to us, that team comes to us as well. So we actually took that program from Health and Human Services. And so there will be 12 employees coming over to the Department of Agriculture from Health and Human Services. And the reason we wanted this, we had a lot of conversations about this, going back to our meat and poultry inspection. We have the 3 that are going now. We've got 3 additional inspectors in dairy, but we knew that those 6 weren't going to be able to cover the state if our meat and poultry takes off the way we expect it to take off. We now got 12 additional employees. Let's just say there's 6 of those that are going to be inspectors in the field for us. We now have 12 that'll cover this state. So we're not sending people from Sparks to Elko. We will have staff in Elko as part of this merger. We have staff in Winnemucca. We have staff in Ely now that will be doing these inspections. And so it was a lift. It was a heavy lift, but we got it. An additional part of this, cottage food. So cottage food was overseen by HHS, and the companion bill to 466 was 352 by Assemblymember Napa Anderson here in Sparks, Reno. And she ran this bill to give us the authority at the agency, pretty much in case 466 didn't go forward, regulate cottage food. So if you're doing a cottage food right now, Health and Human Services signs off on cottage food side of it. We do the craft side of it. So if you're doing pickles or anything acidified, we sign off. But if you're doing any other kind, Health and Human Services signed off. So you had to get a permit both ways. In addition, if you want to take that to a farmer's market, you had to get sometimes a permit from that local municipality in order to put your stuff at a farmer's market. And so people were really confused about what that meant. Farm to fork was actually another one in here. So if you're having an event at your farm, harvest season, and you want to serve meals there, the permitting process was through HHS. It wasn't through us, but yet the meat that came from our state program was going to have to be through us. So this cleaned it all up. One thing this bill also did was cottage cosmetics. So I'll let Doug talk about cosmetics. We're not really sure how much that's going to grow. But what that is, it's a lot of our lavender infused oils and soaps and things like that. Those are considered a cottage industry. And so we will be overseeing that as well. And it makes sense to bring it all into one place. And so that our producers know where they can go to get that license and to get that authority. It did take this gross from 35,000 up to 100,000. So you can gross $100,000 annually now and be considered a cottage food or cottage cosmetics. And so we really expect this program to get up and run. One thing that the bill 466 did require is that we look at the fees and make sure that they're there and we're solvent in this program going forward. I will tell you in our conversations with Health and Human Services, they knew their fees were 20 years old and we're going to get to it next year. We're going to get to it next year and they never did. So we knew we were going to have to look at the fees. Even if this didn't come over, they were going to look at the fees and make that more sustainable. one part of that bill actually said that no health district and no municipality can have veto power part of the bag when it comes to cottage food. So we actually got a pretty good win on that one. So we get to be that authority. I know Farm Bureau pushed really aggressively on this, Hank, and we thank their support. And you mentioned Doug, and our thoughts are all with him right now, obviously. So we'll go at 333. You want to present this one? Doug, you had to try that. I think in 1 second.
With those 12 FTEs coming over, what kind of budget or how that?
Yeah, good question on that budget. Oh, I do have something else for you. Thank you. So we did transfer 1.5 million in reserve with that as well that we got from HHS. And so all of their current revenue, it will start coming to us on July 1, in addition to the 1.5 million reserves. We will reevaluate that fee structure and put that into place. They are leasing a floor in a building in South Reno. We're looking at getting out of that lease because we have to repair. There's absolutely no reason for us to pay rent when we own our building here and they can come here. So we will get out of that as soon as we legally can. We'll be looking at my friend Richard over here to see what tell us when we can get out of that lease. And we do have some leased office space in other places in the state as well. So we're looking at, can we cheapen that up a little bit? Can we do something else with that? I think you guys know me, I'm pretty frugal, I'm cheap, I'm tight. So we're not going to spend any money if we don't have to. We know we're good for a couple of years, Hank, just on the reserves and the current fees, but we're going to address those fees right now. So we'll probably put some emergency rates in that regard to get them going and then get them approved. One other thing, all of that inspection for that food safety is done by the regulations adopted by the Board of Health. We are going to continue to run under those regulations. As we adopt new regulations, guess who gets to approve those? You guys. Board of Agriculture will now have the authority to approve regulations on this inspection of these food establishments and food safety. I don't expect it to look a lot different than what they look like under health right now. We're just going to try to streamline that language. But so you guys will be hearing from us, and most likely we will be having additional meetings, rather quarterly meetings, as we get through this process for you guys to give your input and to get the approval on these regulations in a timely manner. We do want to get this moving quick so we don't use all that 1.5 million reserve. Other questions?
Is the producer going to see a significant increase in the fees, you think, or?
Will the producer see a significant increase in the fees? I don't think so. And the reason why is we're not going to have duplicate fees now. And so that's one thing. I'll tell you that in talking to Southern Nevada Health, that was a $200 fee they told me one time. And some of those people would never get visited. They would only go to the farmer's market and they'd have their list to make sure that they paid their $200 so that they could sell their eggs or their whatever they were selling there, their breads, cakes, etc. So I do not see a big increase in that. Northern Nevada Health District is an annual fee. And so I did commit to NACO and both of those large health districts that we would work with them first. And what's that going to look like? Because we know we're not going to have enough boots on the ground to visit all of those farmers markets. We're still going to want them to do some of that. So what's that look like? Part of that annual fee may go to them. So if we're charging our producers $100 annually, I'm just throwing numbers out. We still have to crunch them. Does $20 of that go to Southern Nevada Health or to Northern Nevada Health so they continue to put their folks out and look at our farmers markets and not burden us? That's something we're going to meet with them on in the coming months and figure that out. But I do not see a significant increase. It'll be an increase over what you see now because we know it's not solvent, but it's not going to. Our goal is to increase the participation in this, not to increase the revenue with what we currently have for participants. There's two ways you can go about it. Grow the program or tax the hell out of those that are in it.
So we had an inspector come through our campground RV park, and she also does restaurants. Are we going to, Department of Ag, going to take over
only the restaurants? So HHS keeps the RV, the sewer, the public bathing, radiation, all of that. They kept that. We only get the food establishments.
So will we share that, the duties of that inspector?
That inspector will be ours that lives out there in that area. And so they will have another inspector that will do your RV park stuff. Unless we work out an interlocal agreement, which we've talked about, that we could do. Because again, we're trying to look for efficiencies in government and we'll have those conversations. The other part is that Health and Human Services got broke up as a department. So it's now two departments. And so they have to figure out what they're going to do and who's going to land in the health authority and what they call the other one. I don't get what they call it. So they have two departments now instead of one. So they're going to figure out where they're going to put their employees. And if they come up short, by all means, we're more than happy to take their money and provide those services. Okay, now you can talk about 333.
So for the record, Doug Ferris, Assembly Bill 333, I believe we talked about it at our March meeting when we were trying to go for that. Just kind of a highlight over it. What was it, 1874, something like that. So for those of anybody that doesn't know, so the Washoe County Fairgrounds is what it's currently called until July 1. That was actually entrusted to the Department of Agriculture back in the 1800s. So, and it was for the promotion of agriculture. So I know at one point, and then in 1951, I believe it was, Washoe County leased it from the Department of Agriculture. They have the oversight of the fairgrounds over there. They subcontract with RSCPA to run the events, things like that. So in 2015, I know there was a push between Washoe County and agriculture to try and get something done. It didn't go through. I think JJ and I were kind of lucky in the sense we have some connections with Washoe County. And so probably last November, December, Washoe County came to us. We started talking and working on it. And we were able to get Assembly Bill 333. Assemblymember Gray actually took that bill for us. And then we had amazing bipartisan support. 9, was it? I think we had nine different assembly members and senators on it. So Senator Taylor from up here in Washoe County as well backed it. What this does is it's going to restore oversight of those fairgrounds back to the Department of Agriculture. So Washoe County's interest, they said that's not their forte, agriculture, fairgrounds, things like that. They're going to keep the portion that they have where their county complex is and everything. We'll have a separate lease where they keep that. And then everything from their complex to the north, then will all be under the authority of Department of Agriculture. So we were lucky enough. That one was quite a fight as well. We were down there quite a few times back and forth and working with everybody, but we're very happy that we'll continue with in the language. We continue operating with RSCPA on that. So they'll still be managing the events, things like that. But I just think the promotion of agriculture lies more with the department. And I'll say, I think we both had a real vested interest in this from both being kids that showed livestock there and have gone there forever and kind of seeing the deterioration of the fairgrounds, the seating, everything like that. I guess I'll throw out too, we had a lot of support too from the Western Heritage Foundation. I know they did a presentation 5 years ago here for the department, asking for the support. So they were behind this Reno Rodeo Association. So right now it seems like we have a lot of happy people. Just one more thing we took on. So, but we're excited about it. That should be the Nevada State Fairgrounds. And JJ promised Senator Taylor that there would be a Nevada State Fair as soon as we can get it going. But we did have the caveat out this year.
We will bring that Nevada State Fair back. We're firm believers in that. Nevada Junior Livestock Show Board, as you guys know, those are nested within the Department of Ag as well. Unanimous support from them, and they will continue to have a lot of oversight of that actual property with us as far as what improvements go in. But we're pretty excited about that one. So, and like Doug said, good support. We had all but one of the elected officials from Washoe County sign on to that bill. And she really couldn't give me a good reason why she didn't, but it's okay. We got past it. Assembly Bill 251, this was BDR 51154. Revised provision-related inspection of meat and poultry. This was Assemblymember Koenig's bill, and Gurr co-sponsored that with him. And so this was the mobile meat inspection plant. So when we did our regulations in 583, we did not put the mobile plant in here as an official establishment. We didn't have any way of following that around. And so if they wanted to kill and process with that mobile plant, we weren't gonna be able to stamp it as state inspected meat. It would have to remain custom exempt. This bill did change that to where it would become an official establishment. We put a fiscal note on this bill. And the reason we did was to push 466. We said we needed inspectors or else we're gonna have to hire inspectors to follow this trader around. So we leveraged these two bills against each other and it worked out really well. So this was passed just Monday and it has not been signed yet by the governor as far as we know. I haven't checked yet this morning, but it will be or it will go into law. But this is really going to help our rural areas. If you don't have a brick and mortar place to slaughter, harvest, we can't take that trader out and we will have, again, because we have inspectors and Winnemucca Elko ED now, those inspectors, once they are trained, will be able to go with that unit and we will be able to stamp that meat as Nevada meat. They could go to the grocery stores and restaurants in the state. So just a way to expand food security.
That's the equipment extension trader.
Yeah, well, we didn't name it by name, but that is one of them. There's also another trader that is being constructed to use that is not theirs, but anybody that has one, we can inspect them and roll them. So we look for that to expand. But it gets there. Now there will be a cost. I'm not going to tell you, they're going to get an inspection for free. If you got to drive from Elko to Tuscarora, it's still going to be time and miles for that inspector to go. Because we can't eat that as an agency, but it's a lot cheaper than if you have to drive from Sparks and follow that trailer around. And it's also probably cheaper. It might be cheaper than hauling it in. We'll see. I think as we get into it, more brick and mortars come online. I think you'll see these guys go to brick and mortars as much as anything, just because it makes more sense to them. But it is another option for food security, and that's what we were really about. Senate Bill 233, Senator Donate's bill, BDR 51704. Originally, this was a lot bigger bill. It had a lot of stuff in it. And it was going to be a little bit of a problem. We were going to have to do studies and we were going to have to evaluate and there was going to be a task force. And so there's a lot big fiscal note on it. We stripped that fiscal note out and directed the Council on Food Security to conduct a study on the future funding of Home Feeds Nevada and what that's going to look like. As everybody knows, we were using LFPA money through Patricia's division, and that dried up and went away. And so, we were using millions of dollars a year in that, and it was a good program. But we're going to figure out how to fund that. They did give us an $800,000 appropriation that we will see come in start of the fiscal year. 4 months tops, maybe. That's going to run us 3 or 4 months. That's it on that program. So we'll work with our partners. Patricia wants to add anything, I'll ask her to. We'll work with our food bank partners. What do they want? Do they want produce? They want protein. And we'll make the most strategic buys we can with that 800,000 from our producers in the state. And we'll try to make that last as long as we can and help our food banks out with that. But it's going to be a pretty small infusion. Patricia, anything you want to add on that? Okay. That was passed again on Monday. So Assembly Bill 268, BDR S340, Brady's bill. Originally, it was $43 million a year for universal breakfast and lunch. When that went to Way, she did a conceptual amendment, amended that down to $16 million, and pulled Clark County out of that because they're all CEP. That bill never got at work session. So that stayed where it was. I think a lot of that is attributed to the work that Patricia and Brittany and her team has done in getting as many schools and students as they can enrolled in the current structure. And we're showing, and we made that good faith gesture 2 years ago. We'll get as many of these enrolled as some of them weren't. And we did have some other language we were willing to propose, but this bill never moved. So we didn't propose any additional language. So we will not see that. And there is no universal free breakfast and lunch. We will continue to run the program as they have been. Senate Bill 282. Oh, this was the food deserts, Brooke. This was big for down there as well. $10 million to fund a grant program to assist with healthy foods and food deserts. This also was a Senate bill, a BDR 1875, and it did not get out of finance. So again, it was heard, but it never got a work session and never moved out of there. And a lot of this was, in fact, due to this revenue was tight and there wasn't a lot of money and they didn't have $10 million to put in. So that one failed to move as well. Assembly Bill 405, Assemblymember Flanagan, BDR 5911. We had a fiscal note on this bill as well, this community gardens bill, and trying to expand community gardens. And there's already enabling language in the statute. So I had several meetings with Assemblymember Flanagan on this. We're happy to do whatever we can to help get more of these gardens in those areas. But so we did ask her to go ahead and go back to the Council on Food Security because they're already in place. And they can again do a study very similar to what you saw in the Home Feeds Nevada on what it's going to take to get more community gardens in place and what that will look like. Farm Bureau was a big proponent of this bill, as was University of Nevada, Reno. And so we were able to remove our fiscal note. And so we got that moved at the last hour. And that was adopted again on Monday from both houses, final passage. Senate Bill 31, BDR 48260. You guys took formal action to oppose this bill. This was the bill that revised the framework and gave the federal government in perpetuity to bring their claims of vested rights forward when adjudicating water. Everybody else has to have them in by December 31st, 27. But this bill was going to say the federal government could bring it right up until the point the adjudication was completed. We opposed this, as did the board, because we felt that it gave the federal government unfair advantage. We actually tried to get this amendment to put a 10-year extension on it to 37 for everyone. The agency running this bill did not want to do that, so they went ahead and agreed to let it die. And so, because it did get out of the first house. And so we had to kill it in the second house, but we did get it killed in the second house. So we'll look at it in the interim, and then we will have the 27th session to address this. We're going to have to address it at some point. They claim the federal government well, they don't claim. They presented that the federal government won a lawsuit in Oregon on this exact same thing because they cannot be held by this because of the parent. So we read it a little different. That was in Klamath. That was a little different water, but we'll let the lawyers figure out what is and what isn't. But there were plenty of lawyers providing testimony at these bills. So I just got to sit back and eat popcorn and watch. But we did get it killed. So I guess that's a win for you guys on that one. Senate Bill 36. This was established provisions related to conservation of groundwater. 48-384. This was the Nevada water buyback. So as you guys know, we did use some ARPA money in the interim to go into some over appropriated basis. We, meaning the state of Nevada, I was fortunate to sit on that TAC for DCNR as we figured out what that criteria was going to be and award those funds to those basins. And it worked. We did retire a lot of water, $75 million worth in places in the state of Nevada. What this did, it had a fiscal note on it again. The fiscal note was removed because it puts the program in place, but didn't give an appropriation. So over the next 10 years, as money becomes available, whether through NGOs or through grants or through whatever funding mechanism that is, we will be able to buy back wet water, and retire that in over appropriated basis. And so this was delivered to the governor the end of the month, and he has not signed it yet, according to Jason. Whether he does or not, it will go into effect. So this is a good bill for the future of agriculture and conservation of water. Assembly Bill 204. As little as on the Zoom, I know we called this the sheepherder bill. Affectionately, Pete, nothing derogatory, it was a sheepherder bill. But it was to try to authorize some temporary worker with H-2 visa to do a written agreement with their employers that would exclude them from wages, specifically for meals, rest time, that kind of thing. We did get a hearing on this bill. However, it did not get a work session and it failed to report out of that first committee. But, we can regroup. Obviously, you guys did vote to support this bill. It had support, quite a bit of support, but it just didn't have enough support to get out of that first committee. So rather than forcing the vote and having a defeat, we just allowed it to not go to work sessions. Former Senator Goycochea worked really hard on this as well. And I know that I expect to see it back, and I'm sure that the Nevada wool growers and Ms. Little will definitely try to bring this bill forward in the future because it makes sense. And to try to exclude that overtime pay for those H2A workers. Moving to Senate Bill 172. This was the Agricultural Workers Bill of Rights sponsored by Senator Flores on BDR 53959. You guys voted to oppose this on the March 19th meeting. Chairman Snyder did testify a couple times on this bill, as did his sister and a lot of others in the industry as well. And we worked really hard and put a lot of amendments on this bill and played a lot with it, trying to get to a place that would work. We're trying to get it dead, however you want to look at it. And we got it. So we're pretty happy on this one. It came right down to the 11th hour, but it did not get a vote in the assembly on Monday night by midnight. So congratulations, Mr. Chair. You were successful in keeping Senate Bill 172 from becoming law.
Thank you, Director. I'm very impressed with the work you put in the legislature too.
Well, that was you guys. You guys did that. It was easy for me to say what Jim said goes. So that's what we did. Senate Bill 260. It's a little confusing now. Revises provisions relating to air quality 52961. Smoke bill is what we call it. It's wildfire smoke. Originally, this had a lot of very strong language in it that you will not work in these conditions, or you will do a communication system, you will set up a mitigation system, you will do monitoring. And guys, this is going to be for any worker. So if you have guys in your nursery and the smoke's bad in Carson City, they can't go outside on certain days, or you got to figure out how to mitigate for that. And, you know, for us in agriculture, we put a big fiscal note on it. Thank you, Kathy. I thought she was going to kill me a few times. I need to change that fiscal note. I need you to do this. I need to go up, go down. But our inspectors have to go. I don't care if it's smoky or not. We have work we have to do. And we tried to make them understand that. So they amended it significantly. And they took out all the musts and the shalls. At one point, our fiscal note was going to be north of $1 million. And we brought that down to $250,000. And we left our fiscal note on, and Department of Conservation asked for a resource list fiscal note for $125,000 on. And we were hoping to push a 2/3 vote on that. Oh, I'm going to try to stay between the guardrails here, Sierra. But there was staff in the building that said, well, because this is enabling language and Nevada OSHA will build requirements around this now, you really don't know what it's going to cost you. And so therefore, your fiscal note, we don't know if it's going to be 250,000 or 500,000. So we're going to ignore the fiscal note because the regulations aren't in place yet. We fought this again to the bitter end, tried to make some amendments, tried to run out the clock. We're going to see what happens here. We ran out the clock on this bill. It was passed on the 2nd. It came out of the assembly and went back to the Senate, and it needed to be read in order to be enrolled. I don't know if any of you guys watched the last 45 minutes of the session on Monday night, but it was entertaining. Maybe entertaining. The message was never read that it was received, and it was never ordered to be enrolled. We don't know what's going to happen with 260. In my mind, if it's not enrolled, it's gone. My executive assistant spent a lifetime in that building. And so she knows that there are other ways that they could make this show up on paper, that it was received and enrolled. And so I don't know where we're going to go on 260, if it will actually be sent to the governor's desk for approval or not. But we gave it all we had, and we either came up 15 minutes short or we came up 15 minutes long. We'll wait and see what comes out. I do know it was 11:33 p.m. when it came off the assembly floor, and at 12:27 a.m. it had not been read in the Senate when they signed and died, but we'll see.
Okay, we're going to sign it?
Oh, no. Because it's amended down a ton to only be regulations. So on that, we are committed to beating that full on if it does go to regulations. The governor could have ordered it. He could order regulations to be built around this if he wants to. It doesn't have to be a bill. So if that does come forward, we will work very aggressively on that. Interestingly enough, if this does get signed into law, we did get it amended to where if an employer employs commercial truck drivers who are exempt from this bill. So we'll leave it at that. Assembly Bill 414. Revises provisions related to occupational safety and health. So this was the convention center warehouse bill. And it was related to hybrid environmental facilities mitigating exposure to greenhouse gas. You would have to shut your truck off after 5 minutes at a dock. If you were loading or unloading, it wouldn't matter if it was 115 degrees or 30 below. For example, there was monitoring requirements. We put a fiscal note on this originally because thanks to Doug, we own a convention center fairgrounds now, and we also have multiple warehouses. So we're trying to figure out what this was going to do as well. We did get this amended down quite a bit to the point that state agencies are exempt from the bill. So will not apply to us, but if you have a warehouse and you're backing up loading produce or loading product out of that, you're going to have to be watching what comes out of this because you might there be idle time for vehicles associated with that and monitoring of greenhouse gas for dock workers as well that will come forward out of that bill. But the agency itself did manage to get protected by getting an amendment on there for state agencies. Assembly Bill 80, Soil Health Bill, Assembly Member LaRue Hatch, 49387. We worked a lot on this bill. This is a good bill. It was going to bring millions of dollars of NRCS money in, grant money, to promote soil health. Utah has a very similar bill as does, or similar law as does Idaho, and they bring lots and lots of money from NRCS in. There was no fiscal attached to it. We managed to get all that stripped off, but we just ran out of time and in the Ways and Means Committee, and the Assembly member wasn't able to get this one out of Ways and Means. I expect it to come back. They ran it last session as well. It had a lot of trouble. It had a lot of problems last session. We didn't support the bill as an agency. Last session, we were neutral, but didn't push it. We were still neutral this time, but we did work to try to get this bill across the finish line because it is we felt it was a good bill. It would really help get some meaningful stuff on the ground. Assembly Bill 85, Debbie, this was the pollinator bill, and it authorized the management of designated invertebrates, and that was going to go to NDOW. Assemblymember Watts's bill. We had concern as an agency because we have a pollinator plan. We also have the state entomologist. And, we said, whatever comes out of this, we just want to make sure we work with wildlife. So I proposed an amendment that was agreed to by Director Janae, and Assemblymember Watts did accept that. However, Director Janae left the fiscal note on there because they don't have an entomologist. They don't have the specialists that we have. So in order for them to run it, they were going to have to hire all that. So it died in Ways and Means for a lack of funding for those positions. So the pollinator bill died. If you guys remember, we had concerns on this because we weren't sure. We had to get pests amended out. So first, where can you use pesticide and where can you not? And we didn't want NDOW telling us where we could spray our crops and where we can't spray our crops. And so we did get some really good language amended into it. I think it just wasn't worth, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze for Assemblymember Watts after our amendments on that one. So it did die. And this one, McKinsey, unfortunately, I left it for the end. We kind of fell down on this one. Assembly Bill 44 prohibits manipulating the price of essential good or service in the state. We worked on this bill and tried to engage on this bill. Really confusing about what essential goods were, what price manipulation was, when price fluctuations could and couldn't be. It was a Attorney General's bill, but it did end up passing and was delivered to the governor on the 29th. I don't know if he'll sign it or not. He may, or it may just become law without a signature. But I know you guys worked on this bill, and we worked on it behind the scenes, but we just couldn't get the traction that we had on the others with it. So that, if I missed any bills, it seems like we didn't do much for that little time to back up. But questions?
Was there a bill about heat employees and heat regulation?
No, so that was last session. And heat regulations were ordered to be put in place last. session, and those regulations are in place. Those were adopted in the interim, again, by Nevada Ocean. So that's a similar thing you'll see with the smoke regulations. That same administrator will do that this time, if that goes forward. Anything else? Oh, I'm done, I'm done. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. It's you, it's Mr. Will. Wrong David Will.
I imagine. Okay, Division of Administrative Services.
You want to put the two things first, yeah. Just for the record, then the Department of Agriculture has developed a media policy which supports the NDA's commitment to promoting transparency and providing accurate information to the public.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I have.
Sorry. Yes, so we've developed a media policy. The purpose of the policy is to ensure transparency and accuracy in the information that we're providing for the public, and consistency in messaging from the department and our staff.
Questions?
You guys should have a copy of that policy that we would need you guys to take action. So the way these work, you guys adopt the policy and then we put the procedure in place and the director signs that procedure. I don't think it's a secret to anybody that we continue to see more media interest in everything that we do. We just want to make sure that we have a consistent policy on how we answer those questions and what we do. Be appropriate.
Any action on that? Any action? I'll move.
Yeah, okay.
Can I second that?
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The second one is a proposed language access policy. So for SB 18 of the 81st legislative session, the NDA is required to have a language access plan. This policy supports that plan and our staff in providing essential information and critical information to industry and public. And that information is to be presented in a format and language that individuals can understand if that language is not English.
Pretty good to take action on this. I want to thank Sierra again for the work on this. And we actually received huge accolades at the legislature and the money committee for the work she did. She took this serious and met it head on. And we're one of the only agencies that can, met that real high bar that they assist. So thank you, Sierra, for the work on this one. It was not unrecognized.
So I do have a question. So what is the financial impact of doing all of this?
I would have to go back and look at our plan and what our budgeted estimates were, but they've all been built into a lot of it was front loaded into this first year where we were granted funds to implement the program. And then going forward, we're building it into our budget.
So I read in a report that the person has already been hired. So why are we approving a policy that's already in place?
So we don't have an official policy. We've hired a language access coordinator to start implementing the program, to start getting those contracts in order, initiating those interpretation and translation services, but the actual policy and procedure, which would outline the action that all other NDA staff need to take when they're having those interactions with the public and other individuals with limited English proficiency, that would be covered by this policy.
So if we have someone whose primary language is Russian, then we need to provide that information in Russian.
Yes, so our NDA staff for this policy would have access to interpretation services, and this policy and procedure would outline how to access those, when and how to access those interpretation services to ensure that they get the information that they need.
Thank you.
Yes, David. So, couple of things. One is, I thought a number of years ago, we passed a bill, in the United States that made English the official language of the nation here. And so there's that portion of this. And then the other one is are we hiring somebody when we can have something like Google Language Translator do the work for us? It's like, it seems like with the advent of additional, I don't know if it's AI or if it's just intelligence that we have now, that we need to have something like this put into place.
So with resources like Google Translate, Apple Translate, there are often pretty significant errors, particularly when you're talking about things that are specific to an industry. So when we're using more like industry jargon, we're talking about, I don't want to say like specifically scientific, but a lot of those like more agriculture related terms and the information that goes along with that, a lot of that gets left out from those sort of programs. And so this program and the resources that we're putting together with that of interpretation services, those individuals are aware of the topics that we're talking about and are versed in those topics and can communicate those more effectively, ensuring that if we're putting out information on, something that's critical to public safety or animal disease, which we've seen recently, it ensures that that information is being conveyed correctly, accurately, and it allows us to ensure that they actually understand.
So if there's 200 different major languages in the world here, how many are we going to worry about? 5?
So we've done, according to the census, the primary, or I guess the most common second language is Spanish. So we are starting with Spanish and translation to Spanish. However, those interpretation services, so it's an audio interpretation service where you can have a conversation with someone and an interpreter is on the line with you. That can be in a variety of different languages. And so that's how we're covering all of those different scenarios.
Yes, I need to weigh in again, guys. This is required in statute. We're not doing this. We understand English is a primary language in the United States. Senate Bill 318 in the last session told us to do it. That's why we have to do it. And so we did the survey, the census, as Sierra said, to figure out what those languages were. And I don't want to just get caught up on language, because while it's called language access, it's also for the deaf and the blind or those with speech impediments. And we're required to do it. And so that's what we did receive funding for this, and we had to start spending that money because we were asked, what are you doing with the money? So that's Debbie, getting back to yours. We started it, otherwise they were going to sweep that, and then we had to do it, and we were going to have to do cost allocation across all divisions to pay for it. Good for you. Good period. I know you came over.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion to accept the language access policy?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Director? I don't understand why the board had to approve that language policy. If it's already in place, it's required by statute. Why does the board have to approve that policy?
NRS 561, and Richard, you can weigh in if you want. 561 says that the board will adopt all policies of the agency. We do not have a policy yet. We've hired a person and we're trying to work on key documents. Even Dr. Rolfe had to put things out on iPad. We had to have some of that in Spanish. In fact, everything we did, we put in Spanish. We didn't have that bandwidth internally after we lost the PIO. And so we started that, but 561 says you will adopt all policies that we push forward. And so that's why you have to take the action.
Thank you.
We do the procedure behind it. Is that correct, Richard?
Yeah, that's correct. And just some background, it's Deputy PM for the record. It was a statewide statute, so all it will be apply. And some of the background behind that was in response to the COVID crisis where they realized that some people weren't getting access to information that they needed for safety reasons. And then they brought in to apply it, you know, with a quarantine or agricultural issue that they just want the public, general public, no matter what language, speak to be able to understand. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, we'll move on to, forward to Catherine.
Right, for the record, Kathy Falcon, Administrator of Administrative Purposes.
Okay, we'll do that. Take a 5-minute break. Be back for 10:40. Worst. Specific.
It just seemed like it's.
Oh, yeah, so this video just kind of the last session.
Citizens right to participation.
Let's sign up for these guys. All the counties can have. So I don't know. Actually, in the bill, we call it. What is the questions asked? If we sound ourselves, we go, right? And part of it require after, so how they do so far. It's an impact effectively. So as an emergency, that's what it's stated and by Russian, which is why I signed the grant and hired. Yeah. Yeah, and then the policy was like. I was people saying, how do you ever figure this out? He said, okay. We said, it's kind of. You're basically, yeah. The game for work. Oh, no, I can't.
I'm telling you, said it.
Like, what do you know? Like, okay. So, I guess you give me that.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
Good for you. See if that's the line. Has that needed?
Oh, okay, that's different than what we had before.
Well, that one looks better.
This one's definitely better. Oh, this one is better now.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we like this system? Let's see if I can remove some of those people there. Together code, what's that? Classroom C.
Hey, Las Vegas, are you guys having a hard time understanding Sparks as well?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
yes, we are. So we just reset our system.
So was it the little white box that says Aruba at the top?
We just unplugged it from the surge protector. Ours is
not
above
the
our
Aruba.
TV.
Okay.
And he said to do it for 15 seconds. Oh, sorry, Scott, I didn't see you on.
Scotty, it is a gray box on a small brown shelf near the ceiling.
Okay, so the Logitech box?
The Logitech box, yes.
And does it just unplug from the back, Scott? How's that connected to this?
You can do that, or if you want to, you can just flip the surge protector power switch and wait 10-15 seconds and then turn it back on, but you'll have to reconnect to the meeting.
Okay, so then I'm just gonna flip the switch next to the TV. But we're gonna lose everything, right?
Yes, and so you have to reconnect once it's back online.
Okay, you trust us to do that?
That's why we set it up that way.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna flip it.
It looks like we're frozen. Looks like we're frozen.
Oh, that's a nice one. Elko.
Yeah.
The next one is in Ely.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Ely. Or is it Elko? Whichever one has the casino. Well, I'll play probably all day, but
I think Ely does.
the one closer to Reno,
Yeah.
that's where it is.
Okay. And then the last one in December is here, right?
Usually December is here.
Okay.
All right, with the heat.
Do we know the meeting date yet for this?
Yeah.
September we do?
Try to fit up that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. I think we have potential because I know this one.
Yeah.
You're talking about for September or December?
September. Oh, give me both if you have it. Do you have it?
Let me see.
Actually.
Yes, for September, I have tentatively September 4th.
Is that a holiday?
The weekend before is, Labor
The
Day.
week before?
Yeah, that Monday, the 1st is
Oh, and then our board meeting is on Friday?
on Thursday.
Oh,
And
nice.
that's in Elko.
That one I think is Elko, yes.
Is it Elko or Ely?
Let me see.
I get those two confused.
I said jackpot.
No, but I know that they just got a dispensary.
I read
Oh,
that.
really?
That's
Well,
like right outside of one of those.
Can somebody talk in Sparks so we can see if we can understand you?
Anybody heard us?
Well, this thing covers the whole room. You can see you over here eating. Yeah.
Scott, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so,
Use Sparks?
Sparks is currently muted because they're on break, so we'll find out once they come off break.
okay, sounds good. Everything, we're reconnected, so we should be good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll bring the meeting back to order and take our own, Kathy's update.
Right, for the record, Kathy Balke, Administrator, Administrative Services. Before I go into the budget account presentation for 1362, you have all of my updates. I'll just hit on a few things. So the new acting plate, we are still working with DMV, more to come on that. Fiscal staff guided and advanced budget matters through the legislative session, including appropriations for upgraded software and equipment and other needed budget adjustments. Some partnership activity for Russian Throwdown event at Parlay 6. Moving into industry development and marketing, the 2024 Women's Farm to Food Accelerator Program concluded with a graduation of 9. Upcoming events, Food Taipei, June 25th through the 28th, with one Nevada company registered. The communications division had 10 news releases and stories. They also had 11 public records requests, and 10 have been processed through 2025. And Literacy had attended 5 events in Churchill, Douglas, and Washoe County, reaching approximately 1,420 people. And then the fiscal team successfully finalized and rebalanced and closed all agency budgets for the fiscal year 26 and 27 upcoming fiscal year. So moving in, yes.
But I messed up and needed to introduce our trade guy, so I was hoping Kathy was gonna do it. You didn't do
I
it.
did not do it.
Sorry, Blaine, no offense. Yeah, now that he's got his mouth full, I'm gonna ask him to tell a little bit about himself. I was gonna finish my cookie. Oh, you can finish it. Blaine Murphy, Churchill County boy, sucked him back home. With that, sir, anything you want to say to the board?
No, nothing. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm from Fallon originally. I was an FFA state officer. I went to school at UNR, studied agricultural science and economics, go back. And I, previous to this, was in Washington, D.C. as a trade policy officer for USDA Foreign Agricultural Service, tracking trade policy issues with the European Union. Was let go with the new administration and DOGE. And this opportunity came available, and I'm happy to be back home and in this position to help promote and push Nevada food, agriculture, and beverage. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right. Just a quick overview, Food and Nutrition Division, they have 2 budget accounts, 2691 and 1362. So both of them are funded by federal funds. Some of the programs under 1362 are Seniors Farmers Market, Emergency Food Assistance Program, Food Distribution on Indian Reservations, and Commodity Supplemental Food Programs. And as a whole, they are 89% federally funded, so very heavily federally funded. So moving into some of their revenue that they receive, as you can see for the 2025 budget, they have appropriations of $176,000. Moving into their emergency food assistance, they get 1.4 million. Their service and handling charges 1.1, direct sales and processing 26 million. And then they had 17 million in ARPA funds that are still to be expired next fiscal year. And then moving into expenditures. As you can see over the fiscal years, it has increased over the last 4. This fiscal year 25 in personnel 1.3. Some in-state and out-of-state travel, you'll see their operating expenses 23,000. Emergency food assistance, 1 million, and then their food processing program, they're 26 million.
So, and then we did purchase that Las Vegas warehouse with ARPA funding, 10 million. And then, as well as they also sub-grant out to food bank, some of those ARPA funds as well. And then with that, any questions on this?
David Ruff here, looking at your Woman's Farm to Food Accelerator Program. It said it concluded with 9. How many did you start with? And do you find that 9 is appropriate number to keep the program going?
I will pass that to Blaine.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. I think we started with 10 initially, so 9 graduated. That's on par with the last 3 years that we've ran the program. It's been successful. We love the program, and it's partnered through NASDA, the National Association of State Agriculture. They did not file for the grants to make that program this year, so we won't be proceeding with that program for the next year, but hopefully we'll pick it back up. A file for that grant next year.
So, Dave, that was specialty crop grant funding.
Okay.
The NASDA Foundation was who got that, and we worked with them to put that on and that. And again, that was some of those funds that were frozen, and so that they get, the pool got small, so NASDA did not apply because we needed to put that money somewhere else. Correct, Megan?
Yep.
Okay.
But it's an exciting program. I've been working with one of the participants who's developing like a salsa out of Elko, and actually had a meeting with a co-packer here in Reno yesterday that's producing coconut oils and dry foods, and we're working on maybe potentially partnering her with that co-packer that she can then start retailing her salsas into actual retail locations like Whole Foods. So good to start like creating connections and building folks up in their different products that they're developing, and then getting them up to a scale where they can then go into different retail outlets and distribution. So exciting developments happening there.
Done.
That's it.
That's it.
Other questions?
Okay, thank you. Animal industry.
For the record, Jess is kind of an animal industry administrator. I'm going to just add a few things to this board report that aren't necessarily in here. If you have any questions on what's in here, please feel free. I want to start out with our head tax letter will be going out July 1st. The reason I bring this up is the last several years, we've had a really hard time getting livestock owners and producers compliant with the head tax. There's always a 30-40% of those people that do not pay. Our staff works really hard through inspections, tag allocations, to work with people, educate them where that money's going and where we need it. Last year we mailed out 4,100 head tax letters with active contacts. This year we're going to be mailing out just a hair over 5,000. So there's been 900 come in that are compliant and willing to do this. Tag allocations helped a lot also with the ADT rule and doling out the RFID tags. So staff's been doing a really good job. I was going to touch on the predatory animal rodent control. AJ pretty much explained it all. I'm glad we are hiring. We have the position in Ely filled and Elko hopefully shortly. With the ADT rule and the tags I was talking about, last year we issued 55,000 tags for the state for base tags. Right now, we just got a shipment from USDA of 25,000 tags. We've been purchasing some through grants. So we are close. Hopefully we'll have enough tags for this next season of banks vaccinating. I think we'll make it. We'll get a few more tags. One other thing before I let Ralph go into his vet med portion with high path and everything, I wanted to talk about, I have a graph here for the trick results from the previous year, this last year. Now, if you go into season testing, September to August, We're on rate. We've surpassed 2014 numbers. We're right at 90, be at 90 bulls for the year. And we'll see what comes in. There's still several herds quarantined and hold orders. There's still plenty of testing being involved, but you can see on this graph in 2014, we're at 90 to 100. And it does decline for about 3 years to 4 years. And then it rises again. 2019, we're back up to 65. Right in the middle there, 2017, we're only 22. So with these numbers, and when there's a high positivity rate, people are tested. The number of bulls tested in 2014 was a very high number. It was over 8,500 bulls. You get down to the years of 2017, where there's not very many positive bulls. They're only testing about 7,000. So there's a couple thousand, 2,000-3,000 bulls that just don't get tested. And that just continues on the graph. Right now we are in a very high positivity rate in the state. And I know it's going to come back down for the next couple of years. And if people stop testing, it's going to rise again. So that's just kind of the trick right now. Dr. Rolfe, you want to talk about stuff here?
Yeah, hopefully eventually this is Dr. Rolfe, state veterinary. Hopefully I'll be able to move on from high craft next time and the way things are going. But we did end up with 11 of our 13 dairies in Churchill County were affected by the high craft. The last one was on March 17th. Glad to say they all out of quarantine now. They've been negative for at least 3 weeks total. The trend in that, what we saw with D11 in Churchill County was different. It happened fast, it happened aggressively, but it went away quickly. We do still have one herd quarantine, the original one in Nye County. That is a different strain than we had. That was the original one. And in my experience, that strain does seem to linger. There's a few factors, but not much we can do. The nice thing is we're going to be able to back off of our bulk tank testing, but we're going to maintain bulk tank testing. USDA is pretty adamant about that. We can try to achieve a status of saying we're unaffected when they call us level 4. Doesn't mean anything. I don't know. But they're myself and other state veterinarians have been really kind of going back and forth with the USDA on what does this bulk tank testing, this national milk testing strategy look like and what it would mean. But for now, we're going to continue. We need to detect these things early so we can stop it like we did last time. So we'll continue that, but I'm going to back down every 2 weeks. Going to stay on the bulk tank testing for all the dairies instead of going back to silo tech testing. Doesn't really hurt our crew. It's not more labor intensive to do that. They're willing to do it for us. So I think it's better to go farm to farm on a bi-monthly basis, and then hopefully back to monthly here within a month or so if we stay negative. I'll recommend it. That will suffice for the USDA, what they ask us to do. What that really means in the long run, don't know how much value that is, but at least we're looking for it. We'll go for it. So we haven't had any other bird detections other than the one out in Churchill County, which I did depopulate. So we're looking good as far as high path goes. But we'll see fall brings. We don't know what immunity from this looks like when the farm is exposed. So we're not sure how long and how strong that immunity is going to be, but there's some. So we can just be hopeful.
Wildlife, we did have a couple wildlife.
We did, and we still are sampling. I have seen a couple positive still ducks. They did not give me a location and we call check on it, but there's still some wildlife with the D11 strain, but we're fine. But pretty low numbers at this point, but that's typical for the seasons. So we try to have mind toward that. So like Jay was saying, fall comes back around. And on the brucellosis thing, the shortage of the vaccine has ended, and I think it ended sooner than people thought it was going to. I never had any of those movements from Idaho come through because we required that they were officially ID'd, even if they were non-vaccinated, so we could trace them. And I wanted all those numbers from Idaho. None of those commuter agreements came through. So we put it in place in case we needed this agreement, but we never really had to use it. Not all on the veterinary front. That's much.
Question, Dr. Shank. Bulk tank testing is easy and simple. We test for a lot of bacteria and other things. Is there a lot of pushback from that, or is it an expensive test?
The two burdens are on the labs and the cost of it too. Yeah, the shipping. But the way we're able to run it with our milk program here, it's really not very labor intensive, and it's fairly simple for us to do because we have agreements with our milk samplers that are certified to get the samples for us. So it doesn't put a lot of burden on us to do it. So I think it's worth maintaining going forward.
Likely. So what's the story with vaccine for the birds?
Lots of discussion. I can tell you that It's two different avenues, right? We've got the avian side, the poultry side of things, and we've got the dairy side of things. So neither one's moving very fast. But the discussions on the avian side are heating up. We've got working groups from our state veterinarian colleagues that are all looking at this and talking to USDA about it. So it comes down to industry and it comes down to trade. So really, the vaccines are there. They can get pushed through, they can get approved quickly. Some of the industry doesn't want it. Broilers don't want it. So turkey people want it. It's controversial. And when you say, what about the dairy world? The beef guys probably don't. So they all fall back on trade implications if we start vaccinating. So you have to think carefully about doing that. And we're going to have, if we're going to move that route, which is where discussions are now, we need to have an extensive plan in place nationally and then probably on a state level. So we can record it, so try to not have trade implications by our vaccine protocols. So it did a lot of work to figure those out. So it's in the talks. It's a hot topic. I don't have an answer when and if. Sure.
Go into this a little bit, the 30-second why trade matters, because we can't differentiate.
Yeah, so if we start putting vaccinations in place and we can't distinguish between natural infection and vaccination status, that's the testing we're using. Our foreign trade partners do not want to take those animals or those products, right? Because there's a risk to them that they're going to bring this foreign animal disease into their country. So there's workarounds to that. Some of these vaccines, depending on the style of vaccine, can be distinguished from natural infection. So there's a lot of options, but I agree that if we're going to go in a vaccine, you think, oh, let's vaccinate, get rid of this thing. It's not going away. But the truth is, you got to have a very, very robust plan in place because you're going to affect the weight of the chain. It could be trillions of dollars. So the talks are there. We don't let the wheels drag from the USDA level down. So we don't have a big poultry industry here. So I kind of don't have a dog in that hunt. So I kind of stay out of that one a little bit, but I still stay active with the dairy side.
So what's the long-term expected trajectory of the disease or new strains?
Strains will continue to change. As we say, this is a foreign animal disease, which means we try to stamp it out and eradicate it. We don't want it. I'm not optimistic this time. I don't know. It's 2 disseminated in the wild bird populations, and it's changing that rapidly. So I think we're gonna be living with it for the future, near foreseeable future. And if we'll ever eliminate it, I'm not sure at this point. So just have to wait and see.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Yeah. The update on the screwworm.
Yes, so we just put out, I've put out a release to all the accredited veterinarians to be on the lookout for it. The screwworm is a fly that lays larvae that actually eats living tissue instead of this carrying on and non-viable tissue. So it's been eradicated from this country since, we did have a little outbreak in Florida Keys in 2017. It was mainly in the deer on the Keys. They stopped in southern Florida. We use sterile flies. We release male sterile flies to control it and get rid of this fly. They can travel quite a distance. Right now, it's endemic in South America, Central America. We had it blocked at the Darien Gap in Panama Canal. It broke through that about a year and a half ago, and now it's in Mexico, but southern Mexico. So the USDA is hot on top of this one, and they're trying to push it back south, but we need to be on alert for it. So we're just letting the veterinarians at this point know that they need to be watching for it. Any larva sample off of a wound or anything, we'll be glad to take a look at, because we don't want to be the first that doesn't find it. So it is a threat. It's kind of, people are tired of high path, and I will say that's kind of number one in the USDA right now. Is it a threat test in Nevada? Hard to say. By my guess, if it shows up, we're going to have a veterinarian find a dog that came in with travel history or such. The border is closed to livestock right now, moving out of Mexico. That'll be like that for a while, I think. So it is a threat. We need to be on the lookout for it. But our climate up here in northern Nevada probably isn't sustainable to it, but it doesn't mean we won't have it or couldn't get it.
Do producers know what to look for?
Not as of yet. I started with the veterinarians. I didn't want to make a big deal about it, but at some point, if we get an encouragement to, we'll move forward as I think it's necessary.
And I'll wait if I can, Director Quick, for the record. So nationally, we went with the veterinarians first. We all know what, if you go to the public, we're going to have 1,000 maggots a week that were literally show up, and we've seen it before. And so we would like that veterinarian to be the first line. So obviously producers, if you think you see something, call your vet or take it into your vet and they can ship it into us. That's the easiest way to do it. But otherwise we were just going to inundate our lab and inundate NBSL. And brought up the cost a minute ago, Dr. Schenk, about the mobile testing, IPAP. Well, if the public starts sending thousands of larvae into NBSL, then we're going to have the same problem. It'll be weeks getting the results.
Yeah, and we can run those into called the FAD, foreign animal disease investigation. I think they're gonna get inundated with those, and I don't think it's appropriate to run all of those. But then we're looking at who's paying for shipping. I can get them looked at NBSL for nothing, but I can't ship them for nothing. So, we gotta take it time by time, but anything that's abnormal, yeah, we definitely want to investigate.
What species are affected?
Any mammal will be affected, even if it's a zoonotic disease in the sense that you're not necessarily going to get it from an animal, but the humans can become affected. And they might be one of the sources that bring it into the country, unbeknownst to them.
Well, the screwworm it's identifiable. It doesn't look anything like a bat.
You need it
in the late 60s and early 70s. I spent day after day after day horseback doctoring screwworms. We had pasture leased. I learned to roll calf really good. But it's definitely identified. It's longer and thicker. It's pointed at both ends. You'll know it when you see it. And my other question is, they're going to bring if it gets over the border, they're going to bring back KRS.
Well, it is our normal anti-helminthics. Certain classes are effective against it. Do we have enough? We don't know, but some are better than others. But typically, it's treatable, no problem. It's a matter of staying in front of with the sterile fly technique. Try to wrap.
I don't remember if you were on the call this week or not. I didn't pay attention and talk to you about it, but we did bring that up on Infomedics, and for whatever reason, ivermectins are not labeled yet for newborn screwworm. That's a problem because they are effective against newborn screwworm.
The dose has got to be right. That's one problem. I think people get better doses. Moxidectin is much better. Yeah.
They said it's in southern America, but there's an article I read about something in Wyoming was having a concern with it.
No, there's been a few things pop up like that. It has not been isolated or identified in the United States.
It's creeping north, thing, little by little. But
my concerns are that's why I've tried to reach out even to category 1 or the veterinary that work on small animals, because I have more fear that it's going to show up and someone's going to think that's just a kid maggot. And they didn't get a travel history or something like that and find out that that's where it came from. I think our cattle and our livestock industry is going to be way more on top of it. But I worry about who's looking at these dogs and who's, and as a veterinarian can be aware, not just think that that's just the maggot in the wound of the cat, from an old abscess or something. So.
For the tag team.
For the record, nutrition obvious administrative division of food nutrition. You have my report as well. With our senior statistics, I'll just hit a few high points. Brooks' point this morning that she referred to as the SFP, that's the Commodity Supplemental Food Program. We rebranded, and you'll see it's labeled a Senior Nutrition and Wellness Program. We are watching that. There has been some amplified concerns at the federal level that funding might be changed for this particular program. We only have the budget that's been released from OMB, and we don't really have a lot of information. Our local organizations, our regions don't have any information either, so we are watching that, see what's going to happen. Moving on to the next page. With the DIPPER program, I'll just point out that some of the things you've heard about with changes in federal funding, one of those specifically would be about SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. If there are changes there at the federal level, that could benefit us with the DIPPER because this is our food distribution program on Indian reservations, and our families have to choose between FDPIR funding, which is household commodities, or SNAP funding, which is actual funding on EBT cards. So worst case scenario, some of those families in tribal communities would be pushed to our program that we can still assist them, even if we change some of the funding with SNAP. So I wanted to point that out, that our numbers could increase. As JJ mentioned,
we don't administer SNAP.
We do not administer SNAP. That's correct. That's with Health and Human Services, but we do administer the the tribal communities program. So thank you, JJ. Some things about it. We did make our final purchases this month. We're waiting for some invoices, and we'll do our final claim before the funding expires June 30. And then we'll move to looking at that 800,000 that JJ mentioned. That's about all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Question? We're moving in our warehouse, Patricia. Don't get there.
We're getting close, very close. We have some major things we have to get done that we're on top of, adding some things in, hopefully the end of the summer, like maybe we'll let Kathy get us past the new fiscal year, and hopefully by end of July, we'll be ready to pull the trigger, get some things done, and fingers crossed. We also have our brand new semi tractor trailer, which is waiting for some minor things to be done, and then we will be picking up our brand spanking new semi tractor trailer. Hopefully I will be up here for that and get to ride in it. I will not drive it, I promise you, because I do not have the CDL. But hopefully I will be riding shotgun. Yes, sir.
So if we get the 800,000 from Nevada, if I'm reading this correct, how much, what were we getting in the last couple of years? Federal?
So the program Home Feeds Nevada started in around August of 2022. Just to give you a bit of history, the LFPA funding, which is federal funding, started then as well. That was 4.15 million. That's what's expiring this month. We also did receive 2 million in state ARPA funding from when Governor Sisolak was here, so that when the program started, was codified in legislation. We also received that 2 million. We didn't actually start spending that until July of 2023. So we have run through that 2 million and the 4.15 million, and pretty much all of it has been purchases of food, meat, proteins, fluid milk, a lot of produce. Our first year alone that we ran this program, we spent over $1 million on produce, really trying to support our small producers across the state, which are primarily farmers. Last federal fiscal year, which would have been 23 to 24, we spent about 800,000 on fresh produce. And that's really what we've been supplementing to both of our food banks, who actually take delivery of the product from our local producers and then get that out with their distribution networks. Those are the primary things that we have focused on, is fluid milk, meat, protein from our ranchers, and then our fresh produce, which they don't get much of and has been very expensive during the pandemic. So that 800,000, as JJ mentioned, is not going to go far. So we have a decision to make. You know, are we going to support our producers that are harvesting, which LFPA is running out before that? Are we going to try to balance that with our ranchers, with meat, protein? We do work very closely with our food banks to have them weigh in on foods that they need. But it is going to be a delicate act, and it's not going to last very long. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
I think Combs, so we're involved in the other side of food scrap recycling down there for our pigs. A lot of stuff that we get is expired or past due or unsellable items in the distribution centers. I have a new client that's wanting to produce, and they want to bring 1 to 4 truckloads a week. And it's not expired. It's like product that is mail order, right? You mail it by a case and then you return it. So they get all these returns that are still packaged in good shape. We took 1 load in trial period. But is there any, what's the obstacles that maybe getting that to use instead of? Is there legal issues when they get returned that they can't recirculate this into the community, or
so
it's just such a waste?
So Home Feeds Nevada is a state program. I mean, we do follow USDA federal guidelines for all of our things, from transportation to temperature and all of those types of regulations. So I think it's going to have to do with
I'm sorry.
with the expiration date or the best of use by date. And I'll tell you, the best place for some of that to go would be directly to the food banks. Three Square does have a collection program where they collect from restaurants and other organizations in the Southern Valley and take a lot of that food on. And I think that would probably be a good place for us to start. I can definitely get more information for you on that.
Yeah. Anything else?
on just some numbers, because I pulled this together, Patricia, for a letter to Secretary Rollins, and I'll get the beef for you, I didn't have it in this letter, but since January of 23, we purchased 928,521 pounds of fresh produce, 218,000 gallons of milk, 70,000 pounds of cheese, 29,000 pounds of honey, 17,000 pounds of pickles and pickled carrots. And then I've got the beef as well, which is very high, but I didn't have to know. But we're talking real numbers. Bad.
Most of our food gets super big hit.
And see, I put my honey in the letters that are
I see that.
for the secretary.
They love getting the honey, things like that.
That's a lot of honey.
It is a lot.
That is a lot of fun.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Standard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Bill Strajewski, as with Patricia's, I'm just going to hit a couple of update high points. Again, AB 29, really pleased to see that was passed and signed. And once again, thank you to the industry for their support and to the director for who's ever either listened in or keep it moving forward. That was helpful. It's June 4th, which means it is livestock scale inspection season. And so the inspection started last week and, so far we've been doing well. The last 2 years at least, we've had some staffing issues, which meant that inspectors would be out in the field doing livestock a bunch of weeks in a row. When they're working out of this office, with few exceptions, those aren't out and then back home at night. Those are staying in Winnemucca for a week and working from there. And, it was a real hardship on some of those with younger families and situations like that. And so we are fully staffed. And so, we think that's going to keep energy levels up, morale up, et cetera. Also, the work we've done the last couple of years on communications seems to be bearing really positive fruit. The ranchers are expecting us, their scales are ready in almost every case. And, we're also have taken some queries about possibly rescheduling somebody, because of a sale that they have coming up. And, those communications have also been really positive, and we welcome any feedback that you might get needs to come our way. We welcome getting it from you so we can continue locking down that system. Mackenzie had not mentioned this, but last month the EPA approved the use of E15 year round. Not going to get into the weeds on this, but for various technical reasons, was not allowed to be sold during the summertime season, June 1st to September 15th, the last couple of years. The waivers had been put out to allow for that, and now the EPA just said it's approved. Possibly to that end, a couple representatives from the ethanol industry have reached out to us. We support a station that will sell E15, but we don't promote it any more than we promote any product. But, it seemed like they just wanted to make sure that we recognize them as a resource for retailers and, they want to get into selling E15. And so we will make sure that we do that. And just a couple others. Earlier in the meeting, a couple of folks mentioned farmers markets. Now that the farmers markets are starting up around the state, weights and measures inspectors will be stopping by and checking those who have scales to make sure that they are compliant so that everyone gets the proper weight they think that they're getting. And our device note invoices will be going out July 1st. For fiscal year 2026. Last year was the first year that we sent what I'll call heads up letters in advance of that during June. And we found that those who realized they had to pay every year or had changed their addresses, et cetera. You know, we were able to see those on the front end. We had many fewer late payments, people that we had to chase to find out who to contact, et cetera. So this will be the second year of those letters. We're hoping that, you know, much like the communication with the ranchers, that this will continue to bear really positive fruit for us. And that's all I have, and happy to answer the questions you have.
Questions for Bill? Yes.
David Rupp. Just looking at your devices inspected here on here, it appears that not sure what a blue tag versus an orange red tag is. And in some of these areas, it seems like we've got way more tags, like red tags here than any other in the under 3,000 category here, line I. So I'm just wondering, are we finding that these are older or inspections different now? What seems to be the trend in which you're finding?
Well, I guess I would have to look to another year to see if there really is a trend, but in a lot of cases, and these are devices that are oftentimes outside or are used hard, I'll say, you know, and they're mechanical devices. And so sometimes, you know, they just break. And blue tags versus, I did put this note, I'll highlight it next time more, but there are various levels of out of compliance for scales and pumps. And so the red tag, that means that they are far enough out that they need to be taken out of service. And so, you know, I think we have just found more of those. They might be old. They might be used rougher than some other ones are.
Talking about me or the device?
Yeah, they're talking about me.
Red tag.
Other questions? Very good. Thank you, Bill. Plan, Mr.
Megan Brown, for the record, Administrator for Plant Health and Compliance Division. I'll start out with some broader news for the division, and then I'll get into a couple of specific things. One, I want to note, after 38 plus years of service, our state entomologist will be retiring in July. He is an institution to this department. I think everybody has a nexus to Jeff Knight in this room for one reason or another. And it's been a great leader in our department. So sad to see him leave in July. Of course, will be his retirement. Our division will be busy this summer and fall with updating NACs. As the director mentioned in our budget merger, we had been working on updating some fees. One of those fees is our pesticide registration fee, and we will move through. We did it in a temporary fashion this spring, and this summer we will work through the permanent adoption for that, as well as two NACs in 555 related to pest control and one in hemp. As well, I wanted to make note, I was nominated and appointed to the Invasive Species Advisory Council, which is the national council that supports and provides information to NISC, which is the National Invasive Species Council, which is all of the directors, department heads of all of like Homeland Security, Secretary of the Interior, anyway, all of those folks, and provide information about invasive species. And so our current class is working on two different subjects, and the one that I've been working on and focusing on is with food security. And so we've talked a lot about that today. We're just started. One of the things we're trying to figure out is what does food security mean for invasive species and what that looks like. And the representation of ISAC is across the entire country. And so we're starting to work on those discussions, and I'll make sure as we start to narrow that down, what that impact means, I'll make sure to bring that to you. We hope maybe working on the New World School Room is definitely on the list probably. So I'll be working with Dr. Ralph on ensuring that Nevada has a voice in that process and advocating for smart and active solutions that the actual food and agriculture industry is going to be affected by. A lot of the people that are on ISAC are researchers. So I want to make sure that we have space and room for people that are practically implementing some of the things that will happen from this. So I look forward to continuing working on leadership with that. As far as our different programs, we're continuing in our pathology program to work with our nurseries on disease identification and disposal. Our native seed program is continuing to be vital, whether that's the increase we've seen in seed sourcing as well as our applications to our Contract Grower Foundation seed program. In our crop and export program, we've seen a decrease in exports compared to this time last year, which I think is expected and not any news to people in this room. Our hemp program has seen a slight uptick this year, but not only in growers, but in acres of outdoor and indoor production across the state. We are working with them on testing and compliance. Our food safety program is continuing to provide trainings to Nevada producers. We're doing those virtually. In our noxious weed programs, we have upticked our enforcement and across the state in the past. And for this board report, we've sent over 900 letters to properties and nurseries related to specific infestations on their properties. In Southern Nevada, we have communicated with the nurseries about green fountain grass and working to ensure that our nurseries are not selling those, and working with landscapers related to education about planting those. In the north, it's been Scotch thistle and yellow thistle. We are also continuing to implement our NDOT agreement on the thistle treatments along I-80. We've also seen an uptick in our weed-free certifications for both gravel, forage, and mulch. For a Mormon cricket update, we have been working with APHIS. Again, this is an APHIS plant protection and quarantine program that we help implement in our state. APHIS, as the lead agency, has been working on their environmental analysis for treatments within the state. That those FONSIs were signed last week. The FONSIs is, finding of no significant impact, which means they can implement what is in the EA. Those EAs and FONSIs were signed. We are working on implementing a spray program this year, as well as ground baiting. The spray program will hopefully start happening next week. We have 9 spray blocks across the state that are both on public and private lands. The private land treatments are done at a cost share with the private lands in those blocks. We are working diligently. We have 2 districts in the BLM left to sign our pesticide use permits and letters for requests of treatment, but we seem to be on track. We have also experienced delays with some of the federal layoffs and contracting in APHIS to be able to get that across the line, but we are trending towards success. And we will also, once those pesticide use permits are signed for each of the districts, we can start ground treatment as well. And you guys can see the rest of the information related to pest control inspections as well. And then the only other thing, and I know the director was at the Sagebrush Ecosystem Council meeting yesterday. I don't know if you have any other updates, but we've enrolled 2 new projects in the conservation credit program, which means 2 private landowners. And our team member for the Department of Agriculture has also been very active in implementing our adaptive management program within the state. We've had 3 of those, and each of those have been fruitful in finding that current projects and proposed projects are helping to meet that mark. And I don't know, Judge, if you want to talk about it, but that adaptive management is one of the critical issues or challenges that we have faced in that EIS. And so I think we have had in the past 18 months a really strong track record of how our state implementation of adaptive management can really be fruitful for resource commitments.
Yeah, so on that adaptive management piece, it's not just us. There's 5 western states altogether that adaptive management was not, and so adaptive management at the 30,000 foot level. We see a population decline here for sage grouse. What causes it? We look at it. Is it habitat? Is it something else? And so then what's the causal factor of that? So through adaptive management, you all come together and figure out a way to try to reverse that trend once we meet a soft trigger or a hard trigger on that. Well, the BLM, the initial EIS did not include adaptive management. Our state is 100% dependent on adaptive management to make those adjustments so we don't cripple our economy going forward. And so thankfully, we have good partners in Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah in particular. Montana is helping a bunch too. I don't want to say that they're not, but we're all working together. We've got 5 states have some really good language, and we're meeting again next week. And we're just pretty much going to say, you guys are going to have to accept this. We're going to go back and make you start the process all over again. I know they didn't want to do it, but we have got to have adaptive management. And then one other thing that came up yesterday, and this is of interest in Barden. We're looking at public land credits for our conservation credit system now. So we're running out of people that want to enroll private property projects for credits to offset mines, energy products, et cetera, that are creating debits against the sage grouse. And so holy cow, I was, I tell you, 67 slides long on that presentation that she went through. It was death by far.
Missed that one.
It was brutal. But we are going to go in that direction. So what that'll be is you still have to buy the first third of your credits from a private property credit producer, but then you can't do work on public land. So pinyon juniper removal, seeding, fire restoration. You can remove anthropogenic. So if you've got a fence or a power line, those kind of things that aren't in use anymore, you can get credits for that as well. So we're just trying to get more good stuff happening on the ground. So I'm encouraged. I think it's going to go well. The 2 things we would not agree on are we're not voting members. It's the agency anymore. So
I would like.
Voting member. We never. The proximity factor, we still believe we need to be close to where these projects are. That there was a request to waive. So if a disturbance happened in Baker, I could go do work in northern Washoe County as long as it was in an area that was designated as important. Well, we're not doing a damn thing for the Birds of Baker, we're doing it up here. So they pushed back. The council did a little bit. They still want, you got to consider where you're doing it. And trying to then put the didn't want to do. But anyway, that they're moving forward on it. So.
Yeah, I think it'll bring about, Megan Brown for the record, I think it'll bring about a lot more opportunities for good large scale projects. But there's lots of opportunity, and adjacency is so much easier on public lands than it is on private lands. So.
And volunteer Megan's team for more work. So,
oh, I hadn't heard that yet. Great, thanks.
Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, pinyon juniper, they had a requirement in phase 2 that you put herbicide on the ground.
Yeah.
And phase 2 is a component of the cover and the understory both. It's not just the cover. We want to look at it. A lot of north slopes, we know if you do phase 2 treatment, you don't have to do herbicides. And we just don't want to carte blanche winter and spray everything and then start over. So Megan's going to get to go out and do some work on the ground. See if we need to spray it or not.
David Ruff, for the record here, in the area here of noxious weeds, this was learned how we're looking at white top. It is usually classified as fairly noxious, and yet 4 or 5 of the largest retail nurseries in the area are within a half a mile of large white top populations, and it's now in time for it to be flowering, and especially the shorter, lower white top.
Yep.
And tall white top will be later, but what are we putting out for? These populations are on state or community property, sloughs and areas like this, and it seems to be nothing is being done to prevent the spread of this, and homeowners are going to be taking this stuff home with seedlings. That it's a pretty white plant.
Megan Brown for the record, and unfortunately many of noxious species that are on our noxious food list, people do think are beautiful in some way because they do have different types of flowering parts of them. For the tall or for the short white top, we are working on implementing and through a partnership with APHIS, Plant Protection and Quarantine, working on biocontrol, to bring biocontrol. A lot of the areas, unfortunately, with especially tall white top in this area, are riparian areas. So limitations of using pesticides is harder, and some communities and municipalities don't like to use pesticide herbicides on their properties. And so we're trying to work to bring in some biocontrol agents for those so that some treatment can occur. Biocontrol is not a eradication tool, it's a management tool. And so I think as we see that program grow, we'd like to see that implementation and coordination with the municipalities where some of the challenges of implementing herbicide treatments are there. One of the things that our current noxious weed team is working on is a lot more of the EDRR species, but it's a great point and something that Ray and I talked to our team about is maybe prioritizing some of those that may be lower classified noxious weeds, but around retail or other areas where they may enter the stream and cause further issues. So I think that's a great way to look at it. Talk with our team. If you have some suggestions, I'd be happy to chat with you. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Nick. Any other questions?
I do. This is Debbie Delmar. Under the ground and surface water monitoring.
Yes.
Where are those wells? And it also says that you did 77 samples. What were the results of those samples?
Megan Brown for the record. I can find out the results. I don't have them on hand, but I'm happy to share those with you. And those are throughout the state. So we work with USGS on implementing some of their water sampling as well as our own. And so they're both on public and private lands throughout the state. Yeah.
And Megan, Director Ricketts here for the record. We did enter an interlocal agreement with a county as well. That had some interest in other elements that may be in groundwater. And so while we were collecting those samples, we have to submit those samples to a lab. And so we're trying to be more customer service driven. We're not just for pesticides, but looking for heavy metals and other things.
But I'll work together.
Reason to send two people out if one guy can pull 2 vials.
Other questions? Okay, public comment? Have any remote public comment? No? Okay. Good final roll call. Is everybody still here?
I am. I can see Pete. I know he's there. You got a great big screen, Pete. I don't know how you pulled that off.
You should take a picture and send it and see how big it is on the screen.
Okay, see, that
JJ, we're having a really hard time hearing you guys, so.
We had our
I
own
said
meeting.
he's taking up the whole screen.
You're taking up the whole screen.
You like this shiny bald head, right?
Okay, we thank you all. The meeting's adjourned.